Wait, what if you were forced to marry a complete stranger? A man you've never even met, all to uphold an ancient family tradition? That's exactly what happened to Lauren, and her story will leave you speechless. Welcome to Dark Voices, where we uncover the most gripping tales of love, betrayal, and redemption. Stick around, because this one's a roller coaster you want ascot. Please, Mom, I don't want to get married. I don't want to be tied down. Stop it, Lauren, you need to marry because it is the tradition of our family. They were right outside the church. Lauren kept talking, drawing attention with how stunning she looked in the wedding gown chosen by their designer. But even if the decorations on that gown were made of gold, she still wouldn't be happy, especially because she had never even seen the face or known the personality of the man she was about to marry. All her parents had told her was she had to marry. She wasn't given a choice, no options at all. For other women, marriage might be one of the happiest occasions of their lives, but for her, it was the opposite. She felt anger and pity for herself at that moment. All right, go into the church now, Lauren, and remember this, do not shame your father or me, or we will disown you if you do, her mother threatened while standing beside her. Let's go, daughter, her dad said, taking her other arm. He was quiet, the complete contrast to his wife. Dad, please help me. The sadness was evident in Lauren's eyes as she glanced at Adam, her father, but he could do nothing except go with the flow because once his wife had made up her mind, there was no stopping her. Adam just bowed his head, and that made Lauren's tears finally stream down, tears she had been holding back. She didn't care if it ruined her makeup. In fact, she wanted it ruined, hoping that in doing so, the man she was about to marry, whoever he was, would back out upon seeing her. She truly prayed that he wouldn't be old, toothless, or so ancient he might drop dead at the altar. Actually, that would have been better, especially if he died right there at the altar. Then she'd be free. But if he turned out to be healthier than a monk, then, dear God, she might as well hang herself. Can you imagine walking down the aisle, heart pounding, not knowing who's waiting for you at the altar? What if he's not what you expect? Hit that subscribe button and join Dark Voices to find out how Lauren's shocking wedding day unfolds. So many people were inside the church, all smiling, thinking she was thrilled to be getting married, but in truth, she felt the exact opposite. My God, if you plan to take me, please make it now, she thought, just as her mother and father stepped away from her and kissed her on the cheek before heading to their seats. She tried to stand properly. Earlier, she'd been slumped over while approaching the altar. She had hoped her parents would remain on either side of her, but now that she was alone walking up the aisle, she looked straight ahead at the altar, still about 20 feet away. Yet when she raised her gaze to the altar where her groom was standing, she was shocked. She saw two men up there, one was in a black suit, and the other, taller, was dressed in white. He was incredibly handsome, to the point that she froze in place for a moment. She genuinely had no idea about any of the arrangements. Her parents had set it all up. They dressed her by force, and here she was with no clue. Seeing the handsome face of her soon-to-be husband made her feel as though a thorn had been pulled from her throat, but even then, she still opposed what was happening. Everything was moving way too fast. Just yesterday, she was out shopping, and now she was here. How had she ended up in this situation? Why did some parents betray their children just to uphold an old family tradition? It was already the modern era, yet her parents' thinking seemed stuck in the 1960s. And from what she saw, most of the guests were business people. While the officiant spoke, Lauren was totally zoned out. She couldn't recall a single word he said. The only thing she heard was, "You may kiss the bride." She nearly went numb at those words. She became even more nervous when the handsome man approached her and, out of nowhere, kissed her on the lips. My God, she thought, that was her first kiss. She had never been kissed in all her life, and now a total stranger had taken it. She only snapped out of her thoughts when the people inside the church burst into applause. There was no turning back now. She was tied to a man she didn't even know. What was she supposed to do? Throw the bouquet here, Lauren, toss it here, shouted her cousins and family friends waiting outside the church, hoping to catch the bouquet in front of everyone. But she suddenly threw it in the nearby trash bin and marched over to the white car that was meant for her. The eager bridesmaids looked disappointed, but what could they do? She had no desire to do the so-called bouquet toss. Maybe if she had actually wanted this wedding, she'd have happily done it. "Lauren, what are you doing?" her mother demanded, grabbing her arm. "You can ask yourself that, Mom, or maybe I should call you Mom because if you were really my mother, you wouldn't have done this to me. In fact, go ahead, put on that wedding gown I threw in the trash and pretend you're the bride, Mom, since you wanted this so badly." She stopped talking when her mother threatened to disown her again if she embarrassed them. Lauren leaned in and whispered, "Try me, because I can always tell the driver to drop me off a bridge later. Don't test me. I already know I'll end up in hell after this." Then she turned and left her mother standing there, speechless. Wow, a bride throwing her bouquet in the trash? That's rebellion. Want to know how Lauren deals with this stranger she's now married to? Keep watching Dark Voices, because the drama's just getting started. Wow, you're so lucky, girl, you got to marry Mr. Handsome. Luke squealed her friend Lily. Lily was her maid of honor, but Lauren hadn't even noticed her earlier, she was so out of it. Indeed, Lily had been there, yet Lauren was oblivious. After the ceremony at the church, everyone headed to the reception at a famous hotel in Los Angeles. But no matter how fancy the hotel or the food, Lauren had no appetite. In fact, she changed out of her wedding gown as soon as she could and threw it in the trash. Why would she keep it if the wedding meant nothing to her? Even now, her head was spinning. She felt like a wind-up doll that could only move when told to, worse than a robot. "Could you please, Lily, just leave me alone for now? Stop squealing in delight. If you want, we can swap bodies. You can go be Luke's bride or whatever," she said harshly. Lily slapped her own mouth in shock. Lauren had always been feisty, but now she couldn't even fight for herself at her own wedding. What could she do? Her mom had threatened that if she caused trouble, she would lose her inheritance and be disowned. And so, her parents basically threw her away for money. She sulked in her hotel room while everyone else enjoyed the party downstairs. "Wow, you're really harsh." "I was just admiring his good looks," Lily muttered. Lauren raised an eyebrow, clearly displeased with that answer. "Lily, do me a favor and step out." "I need to think, and as long as you're here, I can't do that." "Fine, I only wanted to keep you company in your misery, but sure, I'll go." "Apparently, I'm no longer your friend," Lily said in a melodramatic tone. Lauren knew that routine by heart. "Lily, get out. Don't try that emotional stuff on me." "I'm not in the mood," Lauren practically yelled. Lily fled, opening the door, only to gasp and squeal softly, so excited she couldn't hide it. Lauren heard that squeal and looked at the door, which was now open. "Hi, Luke, bye as well, take it easy on each other, you two," Lily teased. "Lily!" Lauren shouted, throwing one of her high-heeled shoes at the door. Good thing Luke managed to catch it, because Lauren was honestly too annoyed to care who got hit. She even heard Lily's laughter echo as the friend left. "You need to go downstairs," Luke said, ignoring the shoe as he set it aside. "My dad and the guests are looking for you." It was the first time she'd heard Luke's voice in a normal tone. She hated to admit how warm and tender it sounded. It made her heart flutter, but she tried to hide it. Why would she fall for him just because of his voice? She was no high school kid. "Okay," she replied curtly to end the conversation quickly. He turned and shut the door. Easy enough to talk to, she thought right after he left the room. What am I supposed to do? We're already married, yet I still have to attend the reception. This is absurd. She flopped onto the bed, mumbling. She was wearing a simple dress, having thrown her wedding gown in the trash. She felt that dress was pointless since she wasn't happy at all on what was supposedly her big day. "Lauren, you've kept your father, your godparents, and Luke waiting. Why are you still sprawled here? You said you just needed to use the restroom, and yet here you are," Helen, her mother, spouted, barging into the room and squawking like a hen robbed of her eggs. "Why don't you and Dad entertain them yourselves since you two planned this whole wedding? Maybe you should wear my gown from the trash bin and play bride, Mom, since that's obviously what you want," she fired back but got cut off by a sudden slap across her cheek. It was so hard that she heard a ringing in her left ear, Or maybe her eardrum burst from the impact. You happy now, Mom? Go on, do it again on the other side so my face matches, or better yet, kill me. That'll be less embarrassing for you, she said. Her mother froze, clearly stunned by Lauren's words. Daughter, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. It's fine, Mom, I'm numb anyway. Lauren, honey, please, Mom, if possible, could you stop tormenting me, at least today? I'm going out there now. She forced herself to remain strong so she wouldn't cry. She acted tough on the outside but was truly fragile on the inside. She just didn't want anyone to pity her or offer her sympathy. She sat on the bed after her mother left, and once the door closed, only then did her tears fall, one after another. She'd rather cry alone than be pitied by strangers. Thank you for coming, Luke said politely to departing guests at the end of the reception. My wife is beautiful, isn't she? But he paused when one of the guests, Ron, made a comment. Luke turned to see where Ron was looking. There stood Lauren, wearing a dress down to her ankles, colored light brown, which enhanced her fair complexion. As she walked closer, her long, loose hair fell softly around her shoulders. She wore light makeup that made her look even prettier. Luke stared, stunned. Mr. Carter, we're glad you could make it. Thank you for coming, Helen and Adam, Lauren's parents, said, shaking hands with the guest. Yet Luke did not speak, he kept his gaze fixed on his bride. She finally showed up, Helen muttered. You have such a lovely daughter, Mrs. Monty. She's a lot like you, the guest commented, but Luke still said nothing. He was too busy watching Lauren. She's here now, the older woman said. She's so beautiful, my daughter, Lauren's mother added in a whisper. Please don't embarrass her, sweetheart. But Lauren gave no reply, just kept her head bowed. Luke, I'll leave Lauren to you, Helen told him. Luke simply nodded with a serious expression. Helen smiled, took her daughter's hand, and placed it on Luke's arm. Hold on to your husband. Don't let anyone see you're upset. Then Helen walked off, clinging to Adam as she left. Lauren tried to pull her hand away from Luke's arm, but he clasped it firmly with his left hand. Just do it so you won't get hurt by your mommy dearest again. She looked away, worried he might notice how red her cheek still was, even though she'd already tried to cover it with thick makeup. Okay, take those suitcases out, Helen was instructing their household staff the next day. Lauren had just entered the living room, coming home from the mall where she bought some skincare products. She was out of them. Immediately, she almost collided with a maid carrying a suitcase while her mom simply looked on, calling out orders. Nanny Louise, she said breathlessly to the older woman who had been her caregiver for 20 years. Whose suitcases are these? She asked nervously. Nanny Louise gazed back at her sorrowfully. Lauren, my dear, these are your things. They have to be. Louise, take those to the car, Helen interrupted, stopping the older woman from saying more. Yes, ma'am, her nanny managed to say, forcing a small smile for Lauren. Lauren hurried to her mother, feeling uneasy but trying not to show it. Mom, whose suitcases are these? She asked bluntly. Honey, you're moving out. You're married now. You have a husband, so you need to live with him in your new home. Enough of you staying here. We gave you 1 day, and your husband allowed it, but now you need to move to the place he bought for both of you. What? Lauren's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Don't argue. This is how it should be. You must serve your husband, so you should go live in the house he bought for you both, Helen declared firmly. You forced me to marry him, and now you're basically kicking me out of your house? What kind of parents do that? Are you even my real parents? You never even considered my happiness. All you care about is your tradition. Lauren, watch your mouth, Helen roared. How about you watch your parenting, Mom? Lauren retorted, then quickly ran up the stairs to her room on the second floor, fuming with frustration. She knew there was no more point arguing with her mother. She phoned her father, but all she got was his weary sigh. No one else would take her side now. She sat on her bed, and once more, heavy tears rolled down her cheeks. She felt so alone, with no one to help her escape this terrible fate. Her sobs filled the 4 walls of her room. That was all she could do, cry, until she heard a knock and a familiar voice from outside. Quickly, she wiped her tears and composed herself. "Honey, are you okay?" asked Nanny Louise as she entered. "Nanny, what's going to happen to me now?" she choked out. The older woman came closer. Louise had practically raised Lauren from birth. If Lauren had to choose between her actual mother and Nanny Louise, she would pick Louise in a heartbeat. The nanny had been there for every milestone in Lauren's life: victories, graduations, her awkward first period, everything. Helen and Adam had always been too busy running and expanding their business, never around for Lauren in her important moments. So it wasn't surprising that Lauren's heart had turned stone cold toward them. "Don't worry, dear. I'll come with you," Louise reassured her, filling Lauren with relief. "Really, Nanny?" Lauren's eyes lit up. The older woman nodded, smiling, so Lauren would feel more at ease. "Stop crying. I'll be there with you in your new home. I won't leave you. Just trust me, okay? We can get through this," Louise said, hugging her. So Lauren had no choice but to do as her mother ordered. She packed her things and left with Louise. "Don't worry, Lauren, I'm here. Stay strong. I'm sure Luke is a good person. Maybe you can give him a chance to show you that." Lauren said nothing, choosing instead to stare out the car window as they drove to the house Luke allegedly bought for them. She felt both anxious and scared. She was beginning a new chapter in her life and hoped it wouldn't become a living hell with this man. "We're here, ma'am," the driver, Mr. Ben, announced as the car stopped at a tall gate. Inside, she could see an enormous house, or more like a mansion. Lauren just stood there, gaping at it, while the driver, Louise, and a security guard worked together to carry her suitcases in. 3 other household staff came out to help. "Good morning, ma'am, please come in. Mr. Luke is waiting for you inside," said one maid. Lauren didn't respond, just eyed the young woman who spoke. She was dressed in a standard maid uniform with a headband, though her neckline plunged so low that Lauren questioned what kind of uniform it really was. Maybe a bar uniform? Didn't she feel embarrassed at all letting her cleavage show? "Hello, ma'am, I'm Melody, and these are Maggie and Martha." They all looked to be around the same height, but one was heavier, while another seemed to never comb her hair. Lauren entered, annoyed but trying not to show it. Seriously, Luke couldn't even be bothered to meet her at the door? Then again, what did she expect? They were only married, after all. "Honey, you go straight to the dining area. It looks like your husband prepared a meal for you." "I'll just handle your luggage," Louise told her. "Okay, Nanny," Lauren managed to reply softly. She walked around, noticing how beautiful the house was. Everything looked expensive. She felt like she had stepped into a fairy tale castle. "This way, ma'am," one of the maids said, guiding Lauren into the dining room. "Sit down, and you two, go back to your tasks," came a baritone voice that made her heart skip. There was a long table with 6 chairs in pairs on either side and one at each end. At the far end sat Luke, looking almost like a king. She took a seat on the 4th chair from the left, but Luke frowned, as if disapproving her choice. He stood up and walked over, gently taking her hand and leading her to the seat right beside his. "Always remember, sweetie, you should be next to me because what's mine is yours, and you're mine from now on," he whispered, leaning down so close she felt his breath near her ear. It sent a chill through her entire body. How nice, but it doesn't look like she knows how to cook or clean. Maybe she even needs the nanny's help just to take a bath, Melody sneered from the kitchen, making Maggie and Martha burst into snickers. They always gossiped as soon as Lauren was out of sight. "That's right, Mel, imagine, she even brought her nanny here," Maggie chimed in while slicing vegetables for dinner. It was around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and Lauren still hadn't come out of her room since lunchtime. Luke was busy in the library, his makeshift home office, whenever he was at the house. "How are you all doing here? Not tired yet from gossiping about other people?" They all turned silent. Nanny Louise had arrived behind them. "I was just wondering if poking into someone's personal life was now part of your job, or if you got paid extra for that," the older woman continued with a small smile, making the 3 maids swallow nervously. And no, Nanny, we were just, here's some free advice, girls, don't talk about someone you know nothing about, especially when you don't understand the hardship that person is going through. Focus on your work, or you might find yourselves out of it. Am I clear? Louise added with a mischievous grin. The three maids quickly returned to their tasks. Nanny Louise sighed. Luke had asked her to go back to Lauren's parents' house, but she decided to stay at least one more day. She wanted to teach Lauren some basic household skills so the maids wouldn't make fun of her again. Lauren stood in the guest room's terrace. They weren't sharing a room, she had insisted on staying in a guest room instead of Luke's master suite. She kept taking deep breaths every time the breeze blew. She could feel the cool winds sinking into her core. Worried she might freeze out there, she went back inside and rummaged for a book in the nightstand drawer. She only found a few titles but disliked them. She liked reading 50 Shades and Twilight, and she adored Nicholas Sparks. She had many of his works but hadn't brought them with her. A soft knock at the door interrupted her. She got up and opened it, remembering she had locked it to prevent Luke from barging in. "Oh, Nanny Louise, I thought you'd gone home already," Lauren said, surprised. Louise had said her goodbyes earlier. "Sweetheart, do you want me to teach you how to cook?" Lauren frowned. "But why? I know how to use a rice cooker and fry hot dogs. Besides, we have so many maids here that maybe it's okay if I don't lift a finger. You have to remember, dear, you're the wife of Luke Sanders, the president and CEO of Sanders Corporation. That means you should know how to handle things. You don't want people thinking the president's wife can't manage anything in the house," Louise answered gently. Lauren almost laughed. "Luke is president and CEO? Really? You didn't know? Luke Sanders, your husband, is indeed the company's president and CEO," Louise said, shaking her head. Lauren stared at her nanny, astonished. Why hadn't she found out before? She felt a bit embarrassed that Louise knew more about Luke's background than she did. "Fine," she replied. "We can start tomorrow." The next morning, Louise finally went back to Lauren's parents' house. Lauren was left alone in the mansion. Around 7 o'clock, Luke sent word for her to come down for breakfast, but she refused. She wasn't used to eating big morning meals, and she didn't want to face him. Eventually, hunger made her change her mind. She went downstairs, and there he was. "Good morning," Luke greeted in that baritone voice. "Good morning," she answered softly, hoping he heard. "You okay?" he asked, noticing how she stared at the dishes on the table. Is there coffee?" "I'd really prefer black coffee and maybe some bread," she said shyly. "Right away, ma'am," Melody replied, hurrying off to fetch what Lauren asked for. "You don't really eat in the morning, do you?" Luke asked when Melody was gone. Lauren shook her head. "I see," he said with a small smile she found a bit insulting, almost as if he were thinking, "No wonder you're so skinny." "Here you go, ma'am," Melody said, handing her a mug of coffee and a plate of bread. "Thank you. Why don't you and the others join us?" Lauren suggested. "Not now, ma'am, we'll eat later," Melody answered, forcing a smile, and she and the other two maids went back to the kitchen. Luke just watched Lauren dunk her bread in the coffee. He never imagined his wife would enjoy such simple fare. "What?" she asked, noticing him staring. "Nothing," he replied. "You seem shocked. Not everyone with money is like you." "I like simple food, so sorry if I'm some kind of alien to you," she joked, savoring her breakfast. After eating, she went back to her room. The master bedroom was right next to the guest room, so she passed by Luke's door on the way. She heard him go into the library. She hesitated, recalling the huge collection of books in there and how they were mostly encyclopedias and reference volumes. She wanted to borrow something to read, but it had disappointed her that the library didn't have her favorite novels. She kept pacing back and forth, trying to decide whether to knock. Just one book, she told herself. Asterisk, maybe he bought more. Maybe I missed something. Asterisk, finally, she mustered her courage and tapped on the library door. "Yes?" Luke's voice came from inside. She stepped in. He lowered the pen he was holding and looked at her. Can I borrow a book? She asked, feeling shy. Sure, feel free to pick one, he answered, nodding toward the shelves. Thanks. She wandered over to check. Indeed, it was the same set of encyclopedias and dictionaries. You don't have Twilight or 50 Shades or maybe Nicholas Sparks? Those are the kinds of books I like, she said, slumping a bit. Luke raised an eyebrow. Those are women's novels. Why would I keep them in my library? Her lips pursed, and she jutted her lower lip in disappointment. Luke grabbed his phone from the desk and started typing something, presumably sending a text. She didn't bother asking and turned around to leave, shoulders drooping. But before she could walk out, he called her back. Lauren, wait here, he said in a soft voice. If I'm not back quickly, just wait for me. She blinked, confused, but only said, okay. He started for the door, then paused in front of her, leaned down so they were almost face to face, and said, Would you like to come with me? No thanks, she answered, trying to hide her sudden jitters. All right, then wait for me here. I won't take long. She was about to reply, but he suddenly lowered his head and gave her a light kiss on her slightly parted lips. She stood there in shock. I won't be long, he murmured, turning away. Lauren was left standing by the library door, speechless. Hey, Mr. Danny, what's in those big boxes? She asked, seeing 2 large cartons being carried to the back of the house. The security guard, Mr. Danny, was carrying one, gasping for breath as he balanced it. Your husband said these are books, ma'am, he said between ragged breaths. Oh, I see, Lauren answered. Need help? You look exhausted. No, ma'am, Mr. Danny assured her. They're just heavy. She nodded, letting him go. That's a lot of books. What's Luke going to do with so many? She wondered as she headed toward the garden. Dusk was approaching, and the sunset there was breathtaking. The garden was bursting with flowers, especially white roses, her absolute favorite. She took out her phone, sat under the old oak tree by the garden's edge, and started scrolling through Facebook. It had been days since her last visit to social media. After everything that had happened recently, she just didn't have the energy. Sure enough, she had a flood of new messages. Is it true you got married? Hey, why wasn't I invited? You're married now, what about me? And so on. Most were from college acquaintances she wasn't that close to, so she ignored them. She clicked her profile, tempted to update her relationship status, but her mind was in turmoil. She decided not to. She was about to pocket her phone when it rang. It was Lily. Hey, girl, my birthday is next week. You better not forget, Lily teased. Oh, yeah, Lauren said. See, you had forgotten. My goodness, you got married and forgot your bestie, Lily teased again. Sorry, anyway, it's still next week. Fine. By the way, how's married life going in your new place? I dropped by your parents' house yesterday, and your mom said you'd moved out. Rumor has it you're in an exclusive neighborhood. Wow, so fancy. Yeah, sure, whatever, Lauren answered in a bored tone. Ma'am Lauren, Mr. Luke wants to see you in the library, came a voice behind her, Martha, one of the maids. Lauren clicked off her call with Lily, quickly texting a goodbye before looking up. Thanks, I'll be right there, she told Martha in a soft voice. What does he want now? She asked herself, approaching the library door. She knocked a few times. Come in, Luke called. She braced herself and entered. You wanted me? Luke sat down the book he was reading and stood up. Yes, you can pick out your reading material now. She glanced around, confused. It was the same shelves as before, still filled with encyclopedias. He pointed under the shelves where 2 boxes sat. She approached them, opened one, and gasped. There were so many novels in there. She picked one up Twilight then another 50 Shades star. Her eyes sparkled. Seriously, you have these? Can I borrow them? I mean, these are, she stammered. Luke gave a half smile. Why would you borrow your own books? Her eyes went wide. My own? He nodded. Yes, Lauren, all of these are yours. She was over the moon. Thank you so much, Luke. Without thinking, she ran and hugged him. Caught by surprise, he stood there as she looked up at him, arms draped over his shoulders. Their eyes locked. Realizing how close they were, she quickly pulled away, embarrassed. Thank you again, she managed. Luke's eyes gleamed, drifting to her lips. Her heart began pounding wildly. You're always welcome, he said in a low, raspy voice. She felt frozen in place, as if time had stopped for a moment. She wanted to wrap her arms around him again, but he lowered his head and kissed her. This time, she just let him, lost in the sensation. She closed her eyes, returning his kiss until she remembered herself enough to gently push him away. Please, stop, she whispered, her breath shallow. Luke let go with obvious reluctance. I'm sorry, he said in a low tone. For what, this, she asked, touching her lips. I couldn't help it, he admitted. After that day, they barely spoke. Meals were no longer shared, and he came home so late that she was already asleep. She began to regret pushing him away because it seemed now he was the one avoiding her. It should have been her avoiding him, but here she was, wishing he'd talk to her again. One night, around 9 o'clock, she waited for Luke to come home so they could eat dinner together. She had cooked bolognese, something she'd looked up on YouTube, hoping to impress him. She wanted it too, but mainly she wanted to share a meal as they used to. However, time passed, and he still wasn't back. Her stomach rumbled, but she stubbornly held out. Midnight approached, and she was practically falling asleep at the dining table. Finally, she gave up. I'm starving, she mumbled, deciding to heat up the soup and eat alone. She was reheating the bolognese in the kitchen when she heard movement from the living room. She peeked out and saw Luke entering, switching on the light. She hurried back to her seat, trying not to look too eager, but he strode in behind her. You're still awake? He asked. Yeah, I was hungry, she said. Why didn't you have dinner? He asked, noticing that the food was only now being reheated. I was waiting for you. Wanted us to eat together like we used to, but you've been coming home late or leaving early, she said quietly. He didn't immediately respond. Instead, he approached the stove, took her hand, and held it tightly. Then, using his other hand, he gathered the soup and rice. Wait, I'll do that, she offered, feeling awkward that he was doing the serving. Just stay by my side, he said, not even glancing back. I'll take care of it. She tried to pull her hand away, but each time she moved, his grip got tighter. Finally, he handed her a plate and ladled some soup for himself as well, all with one hand. Could you maybe let go of my hand now? She asked gently. Oh, sorry, he said, releasing her. So, how does it taste? He asked after a few spoonfuls. Good, she said. Who cooked this, Melody? He asked, raising an eyebrow. She pursed her lips. Actually, I did, she said, forcing a smile. Really? Not bad. She frowned. Wow, not bad? I put in so much effort, and all I get is not bad? I bet if Melody had made it, you'd have praised her to the skies. All right, I'm sorry. It tastes great. Don't be mad, Luke said in a panic, seeing her face fall. You're really cute when you pout, you know, he teased, flashing an adorable smile. It was the first time she noticed how his face lit up when he smiled, complete with dimples on both cheeks. That tiny detail made Lauren's cheeks warm. She quickly bowed her head, hoping to hide the blush creeping across her face. They finished dinner without incident, and for the first time in a while, things felt normal between them. She lay in bed later that night, replaying the image of his smile in her mind. It was nearly impossible to fall asleep because every time she closed her eyes, she saw Luke's grin. By midnight, she was still wide awake. Finally, fed up, she got up and went to the terrace, slipping on a cardigan against the chilly breeze. The sky looked cloudy, no stars visible. Down below was the swimming pool, its water shimmering under the lights, looking so inviting that she got an idea. Maybe if she took a late-night swim, she'd tire herself out and fall asleep. She quickly headed down, wearing a red two-piece swimsuit under a robe she dropped on a chair by the pool. Slipping into the water, she felt the coolness relax her. She started doing laps, back and forth, over and over. Luke, meanwhile, was about to lie down when he heard a splashing sound. At first, he thought he was imagining it, but remembered the bedroom window was open. He stepped out onto his terrace and confirmed someone was definitely in the pool. Curious who would be swimming at that hour, he went downstairs to see for himself. Lauren was still gliding back and forth, water lapping around her. Eventually, she floated on her back, her pale skin lit by the pool lights, the red bikini showcasing her figure. She seemed oblivious to everything else. After a while, she decided to step out of the pool. As she climbed the ladder, she accidentally touched someone's ankle. Shocked, she slipped, but a strong hand grabbed her arm and pulled her back, preventing her from crashing into the water again. She gasped for breath, then looked up at the face of the man who caught her. "Are you okay?" Luke asked, standing right in front of her. "Luke," she whispered. She immediately wrapped an arm around herself, realizing her bikini left her almost completely exposed. "What are you doing?" she asked, voice shaky. "I should be asking you that. What if the guards saw you swimming like this?" "They're in the guardhouse," she protested quietly, "and everyone else is asleep." She didn't finish talking because Luke silenced her with a heated kiss. Her eyes widened at first, but the sensation washed over her. He pulled her closer, his hands pressing against her back as if he couldn't get enough. Her mind spun. It felt so good that she almost surrendered right then. The kiss deepened, and she responded with the same intensity, hooking her arms around his neck. The back of her mind reminded her to resist, but her heart refused to listen. After what felt like an eternity, she managed to break free, gasping for air. "Please, stop," she finally whispered. Luke stepped back slightly, both of them breathing hard. "I'm sorry," he said. "I couldn't help it." "For what?" she asked, her voice trembling. "For this," he answered, still staring at her lips. She realized how bare she was in front of him, so she hurriedly snatched up her towel and wrapped it around her, mortified. She fled back to her bedroom and locked the door. She wanted to stomp her feet in frustration at how embarrassing the whole thing had been. The following morning, it was like they were strangers all over again. Luke focused on his papers in the library. She'd come in, swap out a book, and he barely glanced at her. It was as though she were invisible. She wondered if he regretted what nearly happened, but Sunday arrived, and Luke was in the library again. She knocked timidly, then went inside. "Excuse me," she began, "is it okay if I go out later?" "It's Lily's birthday." "Who's Lily?" He barely looked up. "My best friend," Lauren replied. "Is it okay if I go?" Before Luke could answer, his phone rang on the desk. "Yes, Ava," he said into the phone, making Lauren bristle with curiosity at the female name. "You know I don't work on Sundays, right?" Luke said into the phone, ironic, surrounded by paperwork. Lauren silently wondered if it was true. "Fine," he sighed, "wait for me there." After hanging up, he turned to Lauren. "Okay, you can go to your friend's party, but I'll come with you," he said matter-of-factly. She nodded, relieved. "Sure." He started walking out of the library, then paused in the doorway. "If I'm not here on time, just go on ahead, and I'll follow." She nodded again. "All right." He gave a curt nod but suddenly turned back, approached her, and gently pressed his lips to hers. She blinked in surprise. "Hey, what was that for?" she asked, face flushing. He stared at her with warm eyes. "Just because," then he left. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, she was all dressed up and ready, but Luke still hadn't shown. She guessed he got busy at the office despite it being Sunday. She decided to text Lily that she was on her way. Lily reminded her, no husband, no entry. Lauren just sighed. "We'll see," she replied. "He might follow." She rode with Mr. Ben, the driver, who opened the car door for her as always. "Thanks, Mr. Ben," she said as she got in. "Where to, ma'am?" he asked. Lauren gave him Lily's address. Lily was hosting a pre-opening party at her new resto bar that wouldn't officially launch until the following week. On the way, Lauren's phone rang. The number wasn't saved in her contacts. "Where are you?" came a familiar male voice. She scowled. "Who is this?" "Your handsome husband, of course," the caller said, making her chuckle despite herself. "Wow, that must be some wind blowing on your end," she teased, noticing static. "Are you okay? Where exactly are you right now?" Lauren frowned in confusion, wondering why he wasn't getting her joke. She was about to reply when he suddenly hung up. "Yes, my handsome husband, how may I serve your majesty? Are you all right? Did something happen to you?" she asked in rapid succession, her tone full of concern. He really was difficult to trick, he didn't understand her teasing. "I was just joking, but you took it seriously." "All I meant was that you're so full of hot air," she said. She heard Luke sigh on the other end. "I'm almost there, so don't worry, my king, or should I just say I love you?" Lauren froze. It felt like her ears were suddenly buzzing from what he said. Her heart pounded so hard that she abruptly pressed end call. She placed a hand on her chest, her heart felt as if it might leap out of her body. "Why did you hang up on me?" read Luke's next text. She took a moment to calm down before typing back, "No, I didn't, the signal just got weak." It was a lie, but Luke didn't reply after that, so she slipped her phone back into her small sling bag. They boasted, "You're so pretty." 8, Charity said enviously when Lauren came downstairs. "You're pretty too, Cha," Lauren assured her. They set off, walking a few minutes to the main road where they could catch transportation. It was a bit of a trek, but they managed, hopping onto a tricycle that would take them to the nearby town. Lauren noticed a gray Toyota car trailing them from a distance, windows up so she couldn't see the driver. Probably just coincidence, she told herself, pushing away any paranoia. At the clinic, she signed in for her checkup. There were other pregnant women waiting, many accompanied by their husbands or partners. The sight made her chest tighten with envy. She quickly lowered her head. This is what it feels like to have a partner by your side, she thought, missing Luke more than ever. But whenever she remembered Derek's accusations and her parents' betrayal, her resolve hardened. "You okay?" Charity whispered. Lauren just nodded. Their turn was called, and she entered the doctor's office. Her OB/GYN, Dr. Morgan, was kind and had been treating her for a while. "Your belly's getting bigger, Lauren," Dr. Morgan noted with a smile. "Would you like to know the baby's gender? Isn't it too soon?" Lauren asked, her eyes shining with excitement. "Sometimes we can see it by 4 months, but it's clearer at 5. "We can give it a try," the doctor said, applying gel to Lauren's abdomen for the ultrasound. Lauren felt tears of joy at the whooshing sound of the baby's heartbeat. She stared at the monitor, overcome with emotion. "It's a baby girl. Oh my God." She covered her mouth, feeling both joy and shock at the same time. "Congratulations," her OB/GYN said happily before reminding her what vitamins she needed to take and what she should do to keep herself and the baby healthy. See you in next part.